That's great, marvellous. Thank you very much indeed for coming to tonight's Town Council meeting. Hello.
Hello.
Hi. 22-23, apologies for absence. We have the same apologies as we had previously. We're happy to accept them as we were
Absolutely.
half an hour ago. Lovely. Thank you very much indeed. Declarations of interest. Any declarations around the place?
No.
I should declare on this St Peter's Road, which relevant to something vaguely that's coming up later, but very tangentially. If you do come up with anything, do let us know. Minutes of the previous meeting, I had it signed. Anything from anyone about anything? Or no? I'm happy to propose that I signed them then. If anyone's willing to second it, please. And we have to vote on them. Thank you very much indeed.
Here's the.
Thank you very much indeed. 22-26, public participation from interested parties. We have two interested parties here. One is from the Flattenfield Association. Do you want to speak now or speak later, or just be here generally in the room?
Oh, I'm just here to support them to make sure it goes through. Really.
That's correct.
Add a bit of clap and muscle. I don't necessarily feel I need to say something. But I'm here to stand up and back the cause should it really
Threaten us.
And I'm Sarah New from Ashton Parish Council, and I'm just here to listen to your letter about the riverside, so I can feed back to Ashton.
Lovely.
In a couple of
Very
weeks.
nice to see you. Thank you for coming. So keep communicating. It's very good news. So nothing for 22-26, 22-27, effectively anything received. Lovely. 21-28, North Northampton Council.
I've had apologies from Councillor Harrison and Councillor Best.
So there we are. Crack through the first page. Thank you very much indeed. 22-29, to approve draft response to the UK Shared Prosperity Fund consultation. This is from North Northampton. It's due in tomorrow. It was mentioned at a meeting with the Business Association. I've drafted a few answers. I've shown it around to a few people. We've got until tomorrow to put it in. It may have no impact. It may have an impact. But the argument seems to be at the moment that we don't raise issues now, we don't have the opportunity to claim if we don't get those opportunities requested. So I've got a bit of paper. We can happily change anything that anyone wants. Again, they're slightly vague, slightly amorphous, but
I didn't quite understand what the status of this document is. Is it being submitted as the views of Andrew Town Council?
it could be if it was requested to be. That's what we're deciding tonight, I suppose.
Okay.
But at the moment, it's just something I've drafted
Yeah,
after comment in
yeah.
the meeting. And it's not a consultation, it's a consultation on how the consultation should go ahead. So understand. So it's basically asking what questions would you like us to ask you about things you would like. So we're saying we would like you to ask us these questions. I think that's right. And they'll say, we will or we won't. It's as simple as that. So it's not putting forward any proposals.
It's not set in stone.
It's a consultation about a consultation,
Okay.
as I understand.
What would you like us to?
Ruth?
Well, I'm very happy with the other's draft, and I think we should chuck it in and see what happens. The only points of detail I have is that sections 5 and 6, in addition to yes, more can be done for business. It might be worth including the word including apprenticeships.
What you did?
I think I do later on.
Answer the question.
Yeah, I put them down. I think the question is,
Elsewhere further down.
challenges and solutions. I think I put apprentices and more
I've seen
solutions. The opportunities.
Shared apprenticeship routes under 9, people in schools.
Yeah, so it's in the opportunities.
Good one, man.
Lovely, thank you very much. And that was something that the business community would need support. The idea of working with each other to offer that single apprenticeship.
Do you need a proposal?
Well, if anyone's wanting more changes.
I'm proposed, I'm happy with this as it is.
Okay, does anyone want to second that? Rupert, thank you very much. We have to vote on that. Lovely, thank you very much. Emma, is it best if,
Do you want me to do it, or do you?
love you to do it, but as I say, is it better if I do it bit by bit, or can we just send the whole thing like that?
I don't know. I mean, I did do that with that other consultation, but that was because it went in late. But
I think it needs to go section.
I think
It's
it
just
needs to go
another
section by
copy of the
section.
section. There's only 4 or 5.
I'll
Cool,
do
let's do
it.
that.
I'll do it.
Thank you very much.
Tomorrow.
Lovely, thank you very much indeed. 222902 to approve a request from the Flettonfield Association to submit a formal application to Northwoodlands to transfer Flettonfield to NS. This is after their executive has approved their policy on how to do it. And so even though they've got the business plan, this is the beginning of that more formal renewal process. Emma sent round a form from Flettonfield Association that they've started today. We think we need to actually send it in. Is that right? Yeah. But Emma's happy to finish it. It's at the beginning of the process that I think we're all very behind. So, any questions or queries or a proposal?
I'll propose. I'd just like to say I'm not vague behind it, I'm fully behind it.
Excellent. Fully behind it. David's happy to propose. Anyone willing to second it? David's willing to second it. We have to vote on that one. Lovely. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you to the Flettonfield Association.
Thank you.
Your presence has clearly threatened us into something. Question point 222903, to receive a report of Flettonfield Queen's Platinum Jubilee celebration. Before we do that, I'm sure we'd all like to thank David and your group and everyone involved down the Flettonfield Association for putting on a pretty impressive series of events. We thank the old bombers and everyone else lots of times, but the more people we thank, the better. It was a fantastic event and really appropriate. David, do you want to say?
Yes. I've given that there's some good news in the fact that you gave us a budget extension. Well, according to me, we're under budget. We're always aiming to be under budget, but we were helped by the fact that the screen was a bit dodgy. So we've got £1,000 off. And the traffic wardens didn't turn up, so that gave us a bit more money. So when it was starting to look a bit tight, we got a bit of relief. So I've got it down as just under 1,200, as opposed to 13,815 or 13,765. So that's the budget side. I'd just like to thank OTC for its support, because we couldn't have done it without OTC support. But also, I'd like to see if we can send some official letters from Oundle Town Council, and I'd like that to be sent to the Oundle Business Association and the Flettonfield Association, because without them, we wouldn't have got as far as we did. It was links. The key thing was creating the links that made this thing happen, and just some reflections just to help. The day itself and everything, you saw, and it was brilliant. But one of the things that struck me, particularly with the sports day, was when we've done events in the past that reflect on the town, we do creativity, but we don't always do sports. And what we're able to combine was sports and creativity. And the mayor went off and did some stuff with some sports, didn't you? And I don't know how you felt, but I was really impressed with how the sports embraced it. It was good. I mean, I gave out 130 blinking medals at the football, and I thought this was a magnificent way of involving parts of the town. And as we had planned, that was the whole point. It was your idea about getting young involved and everything else. But it was always there. But bringing sports into thinking when we're thinking these sort of things, because we have a very good sports capability and lots of clubs. We didn't include the rugby club this time, but the hockey club, stuff like that. So that's something that came about, struck me as being an important part of the day. And the links between the way it went from town, it rained at the right time, so we moved to Flettonfield, and that made a big difference. And Flettonfield was great. I went there when there was 900 people until I think when I arrived, and I left in the cold because it got cold down there. So it shows what we can do as a town. And we went big, and it shows that we can do big. That's the other thing to bear in mind. So I'd just like to thank everybody, because it was a success, and I think it made the town feel very proud of itself and our people feel great to be part of this town. So the two things is, there's another thing, which is the letter to the Queen, which I think we should do as well. But I would very much like letters to be sent of thanks, because OBA and Flettonfield Association have done a lot. I mean, the way those people of Flettonfield were working their socks off on Thursday was quite something. Clive was there. You know, so there's a lot of work that went behind the scenes. The other thing that's really important, we got rid of all the mugs. And we got rid of all the medals. And so the mugs went to people who were under the carpet. So the yarn bombers, they got a lot of praise, but there were 50 of them. So not every yarn bomber was on the radio. And I thought that was a really good use of what we did. So thank you. So, and the letter to the Queen, which you drafted, thank you. I would suggest that, I mean, there are people doing letters before, but it'd be nice to do letters after to show what we did. So I'm very much, obviously going to be very much in support of that. But thank you as a council for supporting the gang, the committee, in this endeavour, which proved successful.
Thank you for putting it all together. Thank you, Emma, and your team for
Yes.
the hard work in making the dream a reality.
You can't send your letters to yourself, can we? Because I would.
David, was that a point from you or? Sorry. I think the letter to the Queen was something I was showing in Fotheringham Gate Church, and they had a letter from the palace saying thank you for your letter for the Golden Jubilee. It seemed appropriate that we should send it, and then hopefully we get a letter back. So
Yes.
if anyone wants to make any changes or alterations to that, please let me know.
Thank you.
But I think letters to OBN and the Association form absolutely just.
Yeah, formal approval. Formal would be exactly what we need.
Do we need to vote on that, or will we generally in agreement?
You all agree?
Brilliant, thank you very much, and thank you again to everyone involved. 222904 to receive an update on the Ukraine crisis in collaboration with the Polish Town Council. James, do you want to say something else?
Yeah, so we had the first meeting, hopefully, May, of, I don't know what working mind, but a party.
Agreed.
Yeah, agreed. A few weeks ago, was there, it was really good actually. We got a lot of information and a lot of viewpoints that maybe we didn't fully understand. So in attendance were Ian, we had Councillor Charlie Vest there, it was good information he gave us. But Angle Baptist Church are doing quite a lot in Angle, and we're trying to team up with them as best we can. They're doing a support group, wraparound support group, yeah. Which is starting on the 1st of July, or very early July. So we're trying to, we've advertised that as best we can, and we're trying to work with them as best we can. That's our Angle focus at the minute. In terms of our friends in Poland, they, our contact Beata, she's off to Poland next week, I think, or this week, and she's going to speak to her friend who works for the council, and they need to, at the moment, they need to propose a charity for us to work with so we can send either funds or company equipment, things like that to them. So that's sort of where we are at the minute. And in terms of going forward, there's Angle Baptist Church, the big focus for them is storage, and that's something hopefully we can work with them on. No formal plans yet. But yeah, that's a sort of general idea of where we are. I don't know if you want to add anything.
Yeah, no, the Baptist Church wraparound support thing looks very strong. There's a lot of people, I've had some people come up to me in the last few days saying that they're Russian teachers or they've got bikes they'd like to lend out. So there's some good things and some notes have gone out. Storage is the big issue about where to put furniture and bikes, and everyone's got any solutions to a large storage area for the next, even for just the summer. We'll see what's what. But we've obviously made a grant, the Finance Committee last week to the
Yeah.
Baptists, which they were
Yeah.
very grateful for.
Yeah.
It was good to meet some people around the table and just share ideas and experiences.
Aren't shipping containers good for storage?
Yes, very.
We just need someone to put shipping containers and get a shipping container.
Yeah.
Absolutely. If you've got one lying around the back garden.
Yeah.
No, but I'm sure we could sort that. There seems to be like a lot of the football clubs have shipping containers and stuff. Not so we use theirs, but we can probably.
I've certainly, in the past, if once we know what it's going towards, perhaps.
Yeah.
The shipping container companies, if I could have sent 2 or 3 out to Kenya and 3 containers. But you've got to be able to prove what's what, and that's where the linked party comes in. At the moment, it's a little bit more. So, top idea. Thank you very much, and Jerry, thank you for keeping all those things together. Because it was really interesting to talk with people and hearing about that. So. Question 2229.222905. Receive a letter regarding the Riverside site. Ashton, very excited. So.
Well, it might be. I
Might
haven't
be.
actually seen the letter, so
Okay.
it wasn't attached to the email I got, because it was a bit of a last minute thing, so I'm happy to just listen to what you have to say.
Well, this is a letter that arrived at the meeting we had with Helen Harrison a couple of weeks ago with the Business Association. It came through them. We've checked that they're happy to have it openly discussed. And the idea is that in the next couple of weeks, we have a meeting with some of the North Northampton councillors, hopefully Ashton Parish Council and some of our planning committee, to talk through the issues involved. David, do you want to say anything? Your knowledge of this is probably greater than mine.
I suppose that having been on the council for something in excess of 35 years, and been on agendas for most of that period, yeah, I'm vaguely qualified to choose those. I mean, you managed to spend 3 pages saying, frankly, not a lot, it seems to me. I don't think it added very much to my knowledge of the situation. Did it really seem to flag up to me a particular direction of travel? Having said that, the one encouraging thing was that something was done at all, because it has enabled us potentially to open up a line of communication. Now, I had been under the assumption that we had a meeting on Thursday night until a few minutes ago when I was told it had been postponed. And of course, I think the result is that it will probably now take place after the next meeting of the planning committee here. But I think we should probably put this on the agenda of the planning committee anyway, and see what comes of it. And if I can possibly make a revised meeting, I'll come along to that. Because anybody in Arundel has an interest in seeing something done with that building. It is a disgrace on the entry to this town, and has been for many years. But there was one bit in it that did sort of flag up some alarm bells for me, which was on the last page where, just before the conclusion, the last sentence reads, however, the Environment Agency are now arguing that despite the support of the MC, the agency have reservations about development. But I don't know what exactly those reservations are. I really want to understand what they are. It would be very helpful if OHL Limited, if they could spell out for us exactly what those reservations that have been apparently expressed to them may be. Because even if they're not sure how those reservations may be dealt with, perhaps the combined brains of this town council may yet come up with something.
Well, there's an SSI on it, isn't there?
I think part of it.
Because over the years, the owner has tried to swap land.
So I mean, obviously, all the existing buildings are
But there is an
SSI. It's the land that goes with.
It's the land.
buildings, yeah.
Yeah, it's got an SSI.
Thank you. Like David and Councillor Chester, I'm also very familiar with the past history. The basic fact is that Dr. Charles Lane, the landowner, who colleagues may know, happens to be the son and heir of the late esteemed Lane Miriam Rothschild. He owns the land nothing is going to happen unless he makes up his mind, frankly, what he wants and what he proposes to take forward. So I welcome the Mayor's conclusion in his report to us that all concerned get round the table, but it is essential that Dr. Charles Lane is also at the table. Otherwise, we're back against the old handicap. He lives largely in Guernsey, and frankly, inside these four walls, and switch that off temporarily.
Well, we can't,
I can't.
unfortunately,
You
now.
can't. He hesitates to make up his mind. I think that is kind, and I couldn't be so slandered that they could
Let's not get too excited about that. I think the important point here is there's an opportunity with Ashton's support, because clearly it's not even their handle.
No.
The support of the Northwood councillors, but the councillors that were here that night were, of course, they're not the ward councillors for it either. So it's a matter of getting people around tables, presumably in the long term, and talking things through.
I think we'd be happy to come to a meeting. Whether we can actually shed any light anymore, I really don't know, because it is very difficult to actually get anything out of Charles in terms of what he wanted to do. With various proposals have been put to him in the past, and he just doesn't seem to be. I mean, we had a conversation this years ago. I remember when Clive was on the council, and we talked about a museum and arts centre, because it would be the perfect place to, you know, as a welcome. You could have a tourist information centre, you could have all sorts of. It would be a fantastic entrance to Anvil.
One of the interesting things that was raised at the meeting, I'm not sure how this was known or not, was that the car park outside it isn't owned by the estate.
Unfortunately not.
By Northwood Council.
It is actually still highway, still highway.
So the
It's
size of
not
the
right
table
there.
that was needed for all these people to sit around, I'm not sure how big it is, but presumably if there's another meeting being suggested.
Yeah, 7th of July, yeah.
If Ashton can.
Sorry, what date?
7th of July, I've sent the clerk's email address into Rachel Gervin.
We might actually have our parish council, we have
Oh.
houses on the 6th and 7th.
I think Rachel, that's all house.
Yeah,
She's just,
yeah.
So whether we can get everything together then or soon afterwards or whatever, but if we can talk about it planning, it's a start and it's good to keep the conversation going. as best we
Oh,
can.
absolutely, because I think it's desperate. I mean, we've said for you, it needs to, but we haven't somehow managed to get any further forward with it.
Brilliant. Okay, well, maybe there's that.
Maybe it's a movement from all of us, we can do something. Good.
Brilliant. Thanks very much indeed.
If you're happy, I'm actually going to leave at this point
That's
because
a very
I
smart decision. Thank you very much. Do you wish to
And
go?
I will take my leave as well.
Thank
Thank
you
you very
very
much.
much.
Thanks for coming. Nice to see you.
I can
Keep
give some
coming, Sis.
feedback and I'll let you know if we're available for that meeting. Thank you very
Brilliant.
much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Take care.
No.
22/30/01, to receive a report from me, obviously self-explanatory, some of them we've touched on already. Couple of things I was going to raise. One of them was my afternoon tea at Rockingham Council last week. It was very posh. I was certainly the mayor of the smallest car, and one of them was a chauffeur-driven car with a flag on top. So I'm going to make the bid for a flag. It was very nice. The Lord Lieutenant hosted us very well, and the Lord High Sheriff was there with his finery. He wants to come and try beer in the area, so I have to put that together. One thing he did do, and I brought this along to remind you, was talk about, and it references your phrases earlier, how we can work with the Lord Lieutenant's office in linking up the top council, Northlands and us, around the thing. And they flagged up the Queen's Award for Enterprise Award, the Honours System in general, garden parties, and something else like that I mentioned on there. They seem very keen to work with us in various ways, and there we are. They're very close. The more we do, the better. There are also a lot of deputy lieutenants who are keen and willing to come and do visits, and they won't come and do visits if we don't ask them to. So we can make lots of invitations, etc. So that was very good. Speed Watch, there's a group of people who are willing to do Speed Watch, which is great, but at the moment we don't have a coordinator, so we need to find one of those. Once we can't get it off the ground, if we can get it off the ground, we can have the camera in September and October, which given our transport thoughts are interesting. And cemetery wardens, things are moving on with that, which is great, so thank you very much for helping with that. Clerk's report, Lots of things going on there as well. Emma, do you want to say anything about that? Or fairly self-explanatory?
I don't know if anybody's got any questions.
Any questions about the climate report?
Just today received the updated licence for the speed indicator device, so we can start moving in other locations.
The more often, the more random, the better, I suppose.
Are we, just a question, are we getting more positives and negatives, or are you still getting all the labels? Is there any change, or is it still the same as normal?
What, in things in general?
Yeah,
Get a little bit of both. It's
it just doesn't change.
we had some quite nice comments, good comments from the Jubilee. Quite a lot of people rang in to say how lovely the yarn bombing was,
Yeah.
and they'd come from all around. So we had a few of those. So yeah, just a bit of both really.
223003, terms and reference for estates, finance and general purposes, planning committee and climate working party. We have all of those. Can we approve those in one go?
Yeah, I don't think anything was changed. I
Dave.
think.
I wasn't at the planning meeting, had I been, and I pointed out that actually there are things on the circulated list that very clearly need altering. And having said that, probably lost it. Which is done. Apart from anything else, there's a reference to ENC
Yeah,
and NCC,
yeah,
which should be obviously to NNC. The reference, it seems to me, to neighbourhood plan in the penultimate item needs to go. The whole of the bit about the neighbourhood plan would seem to need to go. And bearing in mind that we haven't actually adopted the community infrastructure levy in Northamptonshire, as far as I'm aware, probably that ought to go as well, because we do talk about section 106 agreements earlier on. So actually, I think there are arguably some changes that would be appropriate.
Is it worth taking it back to your next planning?
I'm quite happy to talk that through in planning.
Yeah.
Although, I mean,
Pretty sure
these are
it's
things
over.
that should come out, I mean, just, can we not do it now? Is there enough people in planning to say?
We can do, but I'm just mindful that, I don't know, is everybody here who's on planning?
Oh, yeah?
I think
You're all here.
there are 3 out of the 5 of us.
Yeah.
Because they,
I
they
mean,
I mean, not that I'm saying that they, you know, I mean, they're only taking, like, certainly the ENC and NCC.
I have no problem with those at all.
But it's up to you.
So if we can suggest removing them.
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
So remove the last 3 points and just change
Move
the,
the last 3 points and alter the thing about
Yeah.
NC and
Is
NNC.
that your proposal?
I'll propose
I'm
that.
seconding it.
I'll vote for it.
And
So,
We'll all over that, and we're all happy to approve all the rest. Absolutely. Lovely, thank you very much.
Move it forward.
223004, to receive a consultation on draft Hackney carriage and private hire policy and conditions. I tried to look at this, and I got a very confusing spreadsheet that I didn't understand. So, has anyone got any further than that? Or is that everyone's weird response? It seems to be a
just talking about taxes though, so,
We don't
I have this week we've had an email from somebody asking the council to do something about the fact that there isn't a taxi rank here.
sorry.
Isn't there used to be?
Please,
There isn't
Mike.
that. But if you, I don't know, live here
Yeah,
and
taxi company.
want to go, I don't know. Anyway, they had some people come to stay and they had to get a taxi from Peterborough to pick them up
There's
here.
no
So,
There's
yeah.
Oh,
I think that's more of a problem that.
Mr. Kemp.
Can I just correct that anyway, because there is Angel Cars is Arnold, it's an Arnold taxi company. I use them regularly.
Yeah, it's over there.
Yeah.
It's near. But no, absolutely, there's no taxi rank because
There's
no
no
taxis. in
Well,
there.
no, she was saying there were no taxes.
But
But,
that's not,
There's a
that's
taxi
incorrect.
so there's what, Angel?
Angel Cars,
Angel
near
Cars.
Barnwell. But they're based, some of their drivers are based.
And they're based in Barnwell.
With a
Just
wheelchair
outside.
accessible car.
They're very good.
That's where we always
And
send
Aaron, who runs them, That's very good.
Well, it just strikes me that the date for responses is the 27th of January, which is after our next meeting. So why don't we put it back on the agenda for the next meeting in case by that point any councillors actually been through it and can't give any ideas? I rather suspect that we wouldn't feel
It
necessary.
seems to be a very technical.
And just one thing that they want us to license our own taxis, is that?
It's hard to know, it's just a sheet of
This is,
random
I
boxes
think
with
this is
numbers
part
on.
of that, this is a part of that division where we're supposed to be taking on all
I think you
services.
probably need to know what HH was or something.
Yes, I know, this is the trouble, it's too.
That comes in by the back door, yeah.
So yeah, if we can, if anyone can make it work between now and July, let the rest of us know, that would be fantastic. So thank you very much. So Emma, if we can put that on the next one,
Yeah.
the question, is it humanly possible to make it understand? 22/30/05, consider holding an event for parish chairs and clerks. Back in December, there was the idea of having everyone here for a, isn't
Yes.
that nice? We've got some nice bubbling for it. And then COVID came,
Yeah,
so we weren't allowed to. So the question is, do we do it again?
Yes.
I think getting other parish council chairs in is a nice idea, and some of the clerks.
Definitely, the linkage.
And given what we've spoken about beforehand, it's a good idea.
Is it, will it have a structure?
I think it's probably, I think the phrase that you can use is friend raising.
Bit
So
like
we get people in, we talk, we have a friend come in, friend raising. It's what American fundraisers do. Instead of saying, "Oh, give us some money," they say, "Let's be friends." And before you know it, everyone leaves. It's probably what the Lord Lieutenant was doing.
It's practically better than the Queen.
So we get everyone around, we have a nice time, we chat about stuff, and hopefully at the end of it, we all say, we've got lots of common things, let's do something about that.
Yeah.
That would be my impression. So,
But I think if we did it, took the lead and did it every year, I think that's a very good thing. Then it will start to counterbalance the issue we had when we wanted to set our boundaries and we got it wrong.
it's a new thing. So, I'm happy to go ahead if anyone else is going to do. And given our sort of rural forum ideas and the planning things and all that, seems to be
Yeah.
starting those conversations informally perhaps.
David and I got a conflict of interest because we might get invited.
You may not. I haven't seen
How
one
far,
invited.
who is being invited?
I suspect it should probably be boundaries around first of all, and anyone else that you think is importantly in the hinterland. I don't know what the boundaries are.
Yes,
I suppose
think
one
it's
good-
parishes.
Net to cast would be those people who involve themselves with the previous rural coordination group.
Absolutely.
Are you thinking an evening or a day or
Probably
Daytime.
evening, I suppose.
or what time of year?
Soonish.
I think summer is not great.
Sunday,
Personally.
so 5 o'clock or something.
It was going to be something that was Christmas, wasn't it?
September, October.
Yeah, maybe September.
So I think people have just sort of got holiday
Yeah, it's
in mind, and lots of councils don't meet in August and that sort of thing. So,
So maybe choose a date early in September,
yeah.
when it's still pleasant earth, we have the doors open and stand on the patio
Mhm.
and so on and so forth. I'll look for some dates, because life is a bit hectic around
Oh, of course, the first 3 weeks in September, aren't
there. Yeah,
It's not good for beaches.
it's not very, but no, it seems a good idea.
Leave it to the end of September and October.
That's not, but never mind, we'll try and find something. 22/30/06, this is a paper for me again, sorry about this. Some conversations with the first responders and Heartstar Oundle, or Heartstar, I'm sure that's meant to be. They're now working together, but they're not a single organisation. And given the conversations we've had about medical issues in the town and the work the first responders have done with us, we've now got a hub downstairs, pulling all of that together. One of the conversations I had last week at the Rockingham Castle was about the impact of the chain gang, which I've never heard before, that the mayors group within the county that
Oh, the
support
chain
each other
gang.
and so on, and the idea of having a mayor's charity, etc. And some of it didn't sound great. The idea of doing a quiz night in the QVH on behalf of the first responders and Heartstar
I
as
think
an
that's
event,
good, yeah.
that sounded okay. I've got a quiz person who's just retiring, so that's okay. So whether we head up to doing something like that, but at least give first responders and Heartstar more of a priority in the next 12 months, seems like a good idea.
Can you vote on that? or-
Well, what do people think of the idea? If they
Love it.
Suggested.
Are you suggesting therefore that an institution of the mayor's charity becomes something that Andrew Town Council adopts, or is this a one-off?
I think I put it in inverted commas because I didn't.
I know,
No,
it's just
I
that that's a very
Yeah.
normal thing.
think it is,
Bigger
but
councils, you
Yeah.
know,
I
very
don't think,
normal.
for me, it wouldn't necessarily be something we needed to formalise it this year, but perhaps dip my toe in the water and see what people think
Try it
next
out.
year.
We've
Whoever
had it
takes it
on,
on.
we've had a charity on and off.
I'm happy to formalise it if that's what people want. to
Brilliant. Bring it on. Sooner the better.
do. Okay.
And I don't mind formalising it either.
So I'm happy to keep it vaguely informal, but
Just
keeping
start
as a sort of an aim for the year that we keep tackling along with. If anyone wants to formalise it, that's fine by me.
No, I just didn't want to commit any future mayors necessarily without
Well, that's
us
it.
having a wider discussion on,
No,
you know, the
absolutely.
value of
And it could be
families.
that
There
the
aren't
back
that
of
many
this-
charities in Arundel, sort of things.
And on the back of this, we could have that discussion next year, whoever places me wants to have that conversation. Fantastic, okay, we'll head on with that, in that direction, if that's okay.
Yeah, keep, yeah.
So do you want that on a, do you want the actual making it formal on a future town council agenda so that we
Definitely revisit it.
choose to
Probably.
either, or,
February next year.
Yeah,
or do you want to just see how it goes and then?
I think, well, in February, March would be a good time to work out whether it's happened or whether I'm being lazy and forgotten about it. Hold my feet to the fire, as they say. So yeah, February, March would be good.
So put it on a February, March agenda.
Fair.
Possible, that would be brilliant, thank you.
There's some good stuff here.
2231, bank reconciliation balance sheet budget for May 2022. Yeah, any questions or queries? We're okay approving that, I'm happy to propose it.
I'll second it.
We're going to vote on that. Thank you very much indeed. Payments, schedule of payments for May 2022 as presented is paid up and all related documentation and checks are signed.
For the proposer.
Direct debits are made.
I'll
David's
propose that.
proposing, I'm happy to second it. Everyone else okay on that?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. To approve a quote for £4,700 to carry out the maintenance of the drainage system of public toilets. This has come up from the States.
It
We
needs
have to
to
say
say
the States recommended it, would that be
Yes.
reasonable? To make sure things are in good order.
Having made the decision that we weren't going to go for a major refurbishment, we're still spending one or two quite substantial amounts of money to just bring what we've got up to a more hygienic and attractive standard. So
Yes, ma'am.
that's part of this, yeah.
Make sure it
Do
works.
you want to propose it? Because I'm happy to propose it. I do use
Seconded. Everyone okay to vote on that one? Thank you very much indeed. 223104 to approve a request to open an account bill based in Trapston. I presume this is.
Yeah, it's because Coles have gone and we used to use them a lot for sort of smallish things and, you know.
It's a no-brainer.
So we just want to be able to set up an account. It's the nearest place and that seems to be in Thrapston, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
I'm very happy that David's approved it. I've proposed that. I'll second it. We'll okay to vote on that. Thank you very much indeed. 223105 to receive the minutes from the Finance and General Purposes Committee and to grant to the wraparound sporting. There were some other grants made which I'm sure are okay with. So thank you very much indeed. Any questions or queries about those?
Just my apologies for completely missing it.
That's
I don't know
fine.
what happened, it's disappeared out of my diary and I never noticed.
We thought you were sunning yourself on a beach.
Yeah,
Just pretend totally well. 2232, this is too big to talk about right now, and it's too big to do much with because it's enormous. But this is a transport study that we've been sent through the draft copy of. The idea is that over the next few weeks, when you have nothing else to do on a sunny summer's afternoon, sit down with it and have a ponder. A lot of it is historical, a lot of it is setting the debate up, but then there's some recommendations, really, they're all in the.
It's pretty good.
the appendices.
It's a good report.
I think we're still at the stage, they're happy to finish it off, we can probably go back with a set of recommendations we'd like changes, so if there's anything we think yay or nay, then we can.
It's just to digest it.
Yeah, so we've got a month to digest it, come up with ideas, and maybe walk around and think, will that work, will that work? The general recommendation is, support businesses, not get rid of cars, but to try and make cars quite.
Yeah, it's living together, isn't it?
And that's sort of the basis of what we hope to be raised in that consultation document. And see, so have a look, have a ponder, and for July, we have an opportunity to add to the agenda about anything to feedback, people might love it or want to change it. And thank you to Liam and everyone else for getting it this far. 22:33:01, minutes from the planning committee meeting. David, do you want to raise anything? I know you weren't there, but
I wasn't actually there, but I've read them.
you're on holiday.
I would have thanked Councillor Jones for chairing it in my absence, but he's absent, so
Yes.
that rather falls flat. Yeah, I don't think there's anything about the planning applications that isn't really very self-explanatory. I was just looking through the various notes about the interest funds in the last three items where concern has been expressed about the old NatWest building, which is lain empty now for some considerable time. And is beginning to do for the marketplace what the Riverside might be able to be doing for the gateway to town. So I think trying to put some pressure on to see what can be done about that has got to be good
Pop-up
news.
shops.
The next items essentially link to the next item on our agenda about the Colchester Road development issues arising from it. So I'm not sure if there's any particular need to go into detail about what's on the agenda, other than to say it's already been looked at and exercised the planning committee.
Lovely, thank you very much indeed, and thank you to Councillor Jones for 22:33:02. I raised this partly, but even on the next site, that's not why I raised it. I'm very aware in the centre of town, running past my classroom every morning, there's concrete wagon after digger wagon, etc. And I'm a rather boring reader of the construction management plan that was put forward, and it very clearly says point 2.5, construction traffic must avoid Oundle Town Centre and Codstock Village. And they're also times and various other things, because they're running through the middle of town as the school starts, and running past the primary school as the school starts, and that's entirely why they're talking to go through St Peter's Road, which is, they know what they're doing. I don't know what the best thing for us to do about this.
Well, I mean, clearly looking at what happened in planning, the planning committee have already gone to planning enforcement about these matters. Regardless of that, it seems to me that from full council, what we might want to do is approach the developer directly and express our concern. What is the point of having a management plan like that if they put it in a drawer and entirely ignore it, which is what appears to be happening recently, where actually where vehicles are running? And we saw the pictures of the damage to the morning hall with their trucks that seem to have decided that it's sensible for them to go right through the centre of town. Of course, admittedly, the plan is somewhat flawed because access along St Peter's Road is a nightmare, which is no doubt they're trying to find ways of not doing it. The planning committee pointed out from the outset that access should not be along St Peter's Road because that then resembles a sort of chicane at the best of times for the dark vehicles in the narrow road. And although it's not great, particularly because of the school, if you have to access the site, accessing it from Cotterstock Road would seem to be rather more sensible. But the fact of the matter is there is a plan, and we should be pressing the developers to comply with it. I mean, we could tell them that the planning committee has already reported breaches to NNC enforcement, and then just see what they come back with, if anything.
So,
Yeah, another thing that came up with the MCAT was the fact that where councils have had success with their plans and everything else, it's actually developing, and we did it with the neighbourhood plan to be fair, good relationships with the builders and the developers and all that stuff. So I'm firmly behind the idea that we should approach them, but we're doing the other aspect of it, so it should be more a sort of approach where we're trying to be congenial as best we can, rather than just strictly telling them off, but explaining the situation, so that in future we can develop better relationships. We've had these sort of issues where we've been like that. We need to change that, because when you talk to councils who are doing it well, they form partnerships where they discuss these things before the planning takes place with developers. And because the neighbourhood plan didn't work, we've had to go back to square one, and a lot of it is feels like battles with developers, and we need to turn it round to being more conducive for discussion and talking rather than fighting. That's just some feedback.
No, understood. Rupert?
Well, thank you. I agree with David, probably. On the Cornerstock Road development, I support what I think that Councillor Chappell's view is we should operate a two-handed approach in parallel, letting NNC planning enforcement know our concerns, although I suspect really that NNC planning enforcement are run off their feet, and to some extent, the developers and contractors are not always complying with what the planning enforcement officer tells them to do. And I remember at ENC, we had a damn good planning enforcement officer, but contractors were rather afraid of her. In parallel, yes, touching base with NNC planning enforcement, and also talking in the nicest possible way to the developers contractors on the spot. Longer term, as and when future planning permissions are granted in NA, perhaps get in on the ground floor and discuss with developers before drafting an access plan and clearing it with all concerned.
So are we suggesting we make contact with the developers themselves
Yes.
Yes.
by meeting, phone?
Meeting.
It's very hard because despite there being a requirement on here for them to have a site office with phone numbers, etc., there aren't. So
I know this is probably a bit basic, but surely one of us could just go and say, look, this is your plan. Go and see the site officer or whatever and say, look, you're not actually binding on this.
yeah, we can do
So we
that.
got a job though.
Is it better to write to them and then say, well,
I don't mind. I mean, I can try and speak to them. It's Vistry, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure there's a name somewhere.
they've got
on
phone
there.
numbers, but they all go to central offices in somewhere.
And you could set out in the letter the concerns and then offer the opportunity to meet.
Yeah, we've got a named land officer that we could contact and ask if she could just meet us on site.
Yeah.
That'd be
I mean, I
okay.
think they could because I'm sure they're telling all of the suppliers the routes.
Yeah.
But it's how that feeds down to that particular person in that
Yeah,
in that
I've
lorry.
spoken to a couple of drivers and
they've not had anything. So I mean, I've seen
there's 3 or 4 people.
Yeah.
who's doing the chain.
I've seen signs in, I can't remember where I was, but it says all traffic for the whatever development, pointing them in the correct direction of where they need to go.
So I mean,
Yeah.
that's the point, isn't it? It's not the drivers individually.
Yeah.
Being told.
Yeah.
It's how the companies put it in place. But at the moment, Vistry aren't on the ground, it's a subcontract.
Yeah.
This is sat nav at the end of the day.
Some of the local, yeah, some of the
They'll
local.
just put it on the table with, the dashboard and
So if we make contact with
Yeah.
the land agent directly, then after meet them, that'd be great.
Yeah, whatever we adopt this time, you're going to have the same problem as St Christopher's Drive. I think that'll be worse. So if it helps, we need to think about this as we are doing. We need the different approaches to how we deal with it, because as I said, this problem ain't going to go away. It's going to be replicated. And we've got another development that will also be slightly awkward. So I think that's the important thing. So whatever we come up, should be our approach in future. Thank you.
Brilliant. 223401, to receive the minutes from the Estates Committee meeting on the 24th of May. Is there anything that needs to be raised? This is our de facto head of estate.
No, I mean, I think there's all things which we talked about here before, just summer really getting underway now, so that's a good thing.
Well done.
Absolutely.
Brilliant stuff.
Any other questions or queries?
No.
No, thank you very much. 223402, to receive an update on the proposed plan for the skate park. As Emma said in her report, and I said when we had a meeting, was it last week, or 2 weeks ago? Time flies. With various users and the designer, who was remarkably much cooler than I was. And he had more tattoos than I think I've ever seen. And
Yeah,
cool.
we're gonna do
And he
this.
used words that I now know how to spell a hubba. It's on the plan, if you're not sure what hubba is.
But it's really cool.
They were just talking about words that make sense. The consultation document's been released with nearly 100 replies, the majority of which are very positive. Some people wanting lots of big bolds. His discussion of that was really strong, saying for the budget, for the placement, you're not going to get a lot. And basically what we're looking at is about as good as we're going to get for what the money is. And there's a lot of other good parks nearby. And for sort of our mixed economy of users, this seems a really good thing. And a lot of people are very positive. So the general view now is that we will contact NNC formally and talk about permitted development. We've had a mysterious response back that looks like it's one of the housing.
Yeah, it might be best for us to put in the application because we only get charged 50% of the cost.
Yeah, I think their style is they talk to people.
The talks, yeah.
And then put it in formally. And find funding, just the thought, find funding. And again, Maverick, we've got some good advice on that. So, but it's a matter of getting everything lined up so that we can apply for funding. And then, yeah, it could be that planning delays could be a problem. David,
Is it concrete?
it will be complicated.
Yeah, just, and is that brown thing presumably wood?
That's a half, I think that was a half price.
The existing half price tag.
Yeah, I think that's brilliant.
Yeah. So, and again, the idea was that actually, if you like challenge the existing half pipe, it's good, but as it's a starting environment, it's terrifying, which I can understand. And so it's something to build up to, and you've got the two mixtures.
When we do it, can we actually launch this properly?
When it's built.
Yeah.
As we open it.
Yeah. Yeah, it needs to be a formal opening, because that's.
We've got to build it.
Mayor on the skateboard, isn't it?
Yeah, I'll get the skateboard out.
No, seriously, it's a big thing for the
Yeah,
town.
no, well, let's get it, yeah, the timing will be, and planning will probably be the big issue. But, do we need to sort of formally approve that we're happy, or we're just okay with it? It's fine.
Do we need to what?
Formally approve, we received an update, and then it's to say we like the design, or we want the hub.
Well, we've only got it as received, so that's really, yeah.
That's great.
Thank you.
But no, thank you to everyone for supporting that, it's good, and it was nice talking with training people. Made myself a cool guy.
What are you trying to say?
Yeah, no, he was, yeah, I was scared we had ghost tattoos. Anyhow, scary. 223501, to receive a report from the Climate Working Party. I think most of it's fairly self-explanatory. It's all about management, and of course, in terms of budgets and precepts, that is important. Did Jeremy talk to you about that device that was recommended?
No, he hasn't, but I don't know when he was going to. But I think we were Jubilee busy and then he's got COVID, so.
Of course, that's so the idea is that we look at getting a unit. At the moment, we can get regular half-hourly readings on some of our sites, or we don't. We just have, like I mentioned earlier, estimates and 6 monthly readings, or whatever it happens to be. As I'm sure we're all doing now, when you have a really good idea of your consumption, you're very careful with it. Jerry looked at smart meter solutions, which were going to cost hundreds and hundreds of pounds. And so this is something you can buy off Amazon. You can bolt on wires. It gives you all of the functionality of a smart meter, but at a much cheaper price. And in theory, if you wanted, you can move it on a regular basis. The idea was to try and get one, put it in one location, maybe when we're having electrical work done anyhow, and just see how it works. And if it's great, we can get them forward on a estate maybe. And
It's a bit like a speak, a little speak thing.
Yeah.
It's the same sort of
it's about 100 to 110 pounds. I think
Yeah.
Jerry's going to say, can we just you approve that as part of your
But yeah, yeah.
So if we can get one of those, that would be brilliant. Whoops, Daisy,
Is this something that we have to speak to our suppliers about? I assume we can't just attach things to.
I think you can because it's for domestic usage, but getting it via.
I'm just wondering whether for business it's slightly different, like we might have to say.
Jerry's view is it's probably going to work on us because we're not on the 3 phase in most cases.
Yeah, no, but I'm just saying, do we need to, like, our supplier, do we need, or you know, whoever maintains our boilers and things like that, do we not have to say to them?
It's just
we want-
electricity and it's just to monitor the supply, that's all it does. So it's, I don't think you can,
Is it at the plug-in?
yeah, it's inside the meterage.
Yeah, it's not going inside the thing.
It doesn't go anywhere. It's just a clamp around the wire and it monitors the
Yes.
electricity flow through it.
I'd still like to just speak to them, and I'd just like to say that this is what we're doing, is this okay?
Okay.
Hmm.
Right, okay. I don't think it's an issue, but it's fine. The other things that were raised, which was also something that came up in the meeting with OVA, was the idea of having a local building code to encourage environmentally friendly building in the area. So I think that's a bigger issue that North Wales might actually look at. The idea of fitting an EV charging point here, which leads up the first responder thing. I've tried to have a meeting for a couple of times with the company who are keen to get involved, but they keep getting COVID or forgetting it. That hasn't worked yet. But the idea of moving towards that, particularly if we want to move towards electric vehicles ourselves, that's something shared before.
Just a question on that.
Certainly.
Don't think of one, think of a few.
Yeah, well, absolutely.
Because the shift has happened. More people are buying electric cars.
Yeah, absolutely. But the model is, do we provide one for ourselves and one for others or whatever? And that's what their specialist market is.
Yeah,
But this is pricey.
that's what I noticed.
2236 Communications Working Party received the latest article from the advertiser. Thank you very much to everyone who put that together.
No, well done.
And then some correspondence, employment law update. Email from Northampton CCG about the change in the medical practice transfer. And just for reference, we continue to try and meet the manager, as we said we do in January. The manager's gone, new managers are maybe going to be appointed, and in a month's time I'll send another email saying, any chance of meeting again? And maybe it'll be 2023.
Yes.
On the transfer of commissioning to NHS Northamptonshire CCG, so it happens, I put 3 very relevant questions to Simon Beasley, project manager of the Lakeside Healthcare Group, and I was reassured by the answers. So I will read out my questions and Mr. Beasley's answers. Question 1. Will our residents already undergoing regular treatment at the Peterborough Hospital continue to receive some treatment at that hospital? Mr. Beasley answered, yes, they will. There will be no change unless any patient wishes to transfer the treatment elsewhere. Second question. Will Lakeside Healthcare clinicians continue to be able, at their discretion, to refer patients to the Peterborough Hospital? Mr. Beasley answered, yes, they will. There is no change to patient choice. Last question. Will our residents continue to be able to access the Peterborough City Care Centre for their range of outpatient services, including audiology? Mr. Beasley answered, yes, they will. There is no change to patient choice. So it is clear that although the NHS as a whole, with its fragmentation of jurisdictions, can be compared to the late Holy Roman Empire, the system works and is made to work.
It's good Byzantine reference from medieval historian there, that's exciting. 23, thank you very much, Rupert, and people will be delighted to hear that as well. The idea of not having to go to Kettering Hospital if you don't want to is what's on people's minds. 233703, an email from Boots offering early placement of flu vaccination for public sector staff, which is very nice of them. Do we count as can we start? And 2238, relevant matters for, Brett, anything from you?
No.
Strong, so.
Yeah.
Jamie?
Two very, very small things. One is, do we have someone who engages with people who reply to the town council's videos, posts on social media?
Yeah.
Yeah?
We have a communications officer, Rebecca, who does
Okay, good.
things, she's in control of all that, so.
The only other thing is, as part of work last week, I went to an annual business association meeting, and it's very nice, and spoke to Philip Amps, and he reiterated, I think he spoke about it before, but he reiterated his pleasure at the proposed development, I believe, for the Rose, the one that's near the proposed development that's in the school.
Oh, yeah. The home
I think that's Philip Rose's.
Yeah.
proposed
That's the one.
development.
That's the one.
Right. Which is not, it's just an idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was strong. Islam.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. David?
Nothing for that.
David?
I have had slightly worrying sort of a complaint. Mother with two children, 3 and 6 months, who lives in a house off West Street, who as a result of the Jubilee road closure and then the subsequent road closure for the food festival, twice found that she was completely unable to get to or from her home in a motor car because she was being prevented from doing so. As it happened, it didn't make a great deal of problem, but she was worried, well, what if I had a crisis with one of the children? And as it was quite inconvenient having to park the car, walk back to the house, collect stuff for the children, take it back to where she parked the car and so on. Particularly when she lived about less than 50 yards from where the road closure was. So she literally virtually had to go past the barrier, practically turn, and nobody would allow her to do so. I don't know that there's a solution to it. And I have to say, in the same breath, she was extraordinarily complimentary about the entire Jubilee presentation in West Street in the town centre as a whole. But whether anything can be done to make life a little easier for residents, I don't know.
If it's a crisis, then there is always access for emergencies and things like that. So, and our marshals would always walk a car through if it was needed. Inconvenience isn't quite the same because everybody is inconvenienced to a point, but everybody is told about it well in advance. People are aware that road is going to be closed and will be closed for a considerable time.
But again, and having two so close to each other is
Yeah.
literally a once in a lifetime, probably.
Yes, certainly would be.
Thank you very much indeed, Liz.
I just wondered if Ella would like to tell council how Morag is getting on.
Yes, she's doing very well. In fact, we're in the process of putting together a report for our July meeting with various different ideas that she's got and things that we've talked about. She settled in very well. She knows a lot of people. She's already communicated with a lot of different people, Abbott House and a few others, and got some quite good ideas of how we can utilise the space. We have had a lot of people respond saying they want a cafe, but I think particularly with the information that you sent, we both looked at that this afternoon, and Murad's going to send away for the pack, the box that comes with it. It's called a public living room.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you being able to use the space, whether you do it once a month, once a week, or every day, people can just come and use it and sit and talk. So yeah, she's done all of her online manual handling, one thing and another. She's got through all of that, but now she's really keen to get stuck in. I'm probably just having to rein her back a bit because I keep explaining how councils work, so yeah, it's good. Yeah, expect a report in July.
And is her social media posting, how is that happening? Is that going?
Rebecca's
through
managing
Rebecca?
it,
Right,
yeah.
okay.
In fact, we have
System
updated the
message.
page, and we've now got the Oundle Town Council logo
Yeah.
in conjunction with Oundle Town Council on it, and Rebecca is managing the posts.
Okay. Yeah, I prefer that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much, Val.
Sunday's Times, has anybody read the property section? There's one sentence I'll read out to you.
That's a better
My house is
thing to do.
This is in this where to choose to live.
Oh, I've read
Places
this.
To live. Northamptonshire is a contender for the title of most overlooked county, but there's low calorie, brackets and low price, Cotswold style charm in historic villages such as Nassington and Fotheringay, or the laid back town of Alva. So we're
Nice.
laid back.
We're laid back, that's good.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the low price. I don't know. We're comparing it to
Framing the reference.
comparing it to Chelsea or somewhere in London.
It's up in the Lou.
Yeah, very good. Thank you very much indeed. Brilliant. I think that's everything. Thank you very much indeed for attending, and hopefully see you in July.
Thank
Thank you very much.
Take care. Right.
I've set aside 2 hours for this meeting, and you always